You think you know the people around you. You see their faces, you hear their words, you watch how they behave, and from that, you build a picture, a version of who they are. But that version isn't real. It never was. Because people don't show you who they are. They show you what works, what gets them accepted, what keeps them safe, what gives them an advantage. Every smile you see is filtered, every word calculated, every reaction adjusted. Not always consciously, not always with intention, but always strategically. From the moment people learn that they are being watched, they start performing. As children, they notice what gets approval, what gets attention, what gets rewarded. And slowly, they adapt. They become more of what is accepted and less of what is not. Until one day, they no longer know the difference. What you're seeing isn't the person. It's the version of them that survived social pressure. The version that learned how to fit in. The version that learned how to avoid rejection. And the more someone needs acceptance, the more convincing that version becomes. That's why fake people don't look fake. They look normal. They look friendly, confident, trustworthy. Because that's exactly what they're trying to look like. But here's the part most people don't understand. Fakeness isn't always about lying. It's about hiding. Hiding what they really think, hiding what they really feel, hiding what they really want. Because showing those things comes with risk, and most people are not willing to take that risk. So instead, they create layers. A public version, a private version, and a version they barely understand themselves. And when you interact with them, you are almost never speaking to the real one. You are speaking to the version that was designed to be seen. Think about how often someone agrees with you, how often they mirror your opinions, your tone, your energy. It feels natural. It feels like connection. But in many cases, it's adaptation. Because disagreement creates tension, and tension creates distance. So people avoid it. They adjust, they nod, they smile. They say what fits, not what's true. And over time, they get better at it. So good that even they start to believe it. That's why fake behavior is hard to detect. Because it doesn't feel fake. It feels smooth, effortless, natural. But that smoothness is exactly what should make you question it. Because real people are inconsistent. They hesitate. They contradict themselves. They say things that don't fully align. They reveal flaws. And that's what makes them real. But when everything feels too aligned, too agreeable, too perfectly calibrated, you're not seeing authenticity. You're seeing control. And the more controlled someone appears, the more likely it is that you're only seeing a surface. The problem is, most people don't want to see beyond that surface because it's uncomfortable. It means accepting that the people around you might not be who you think they are, that the connections you trust might be built on incomplete truths. And that's not an easy realization. So instead, people choose to believe what they see, even if it's not real. But the moment you start questioning that, everything changes. And the more you start noticing this, the harder it becomes to ignore. Because once you see it, you begin to realize something uncomfortable. Most people are not being fake on purpose. They're being fake automatically. It's not always a conscious decision. It's not always manipulation. In many cases, it's survival. People learn very early that being fully honest comes with consequences. Rejection, judgment, isolation. So they adapt. They learn to adjust their behavior depending on who they're with. They become one version around friends, another around family, another around strangers, another around authority. And eventually, those versions stop feeling like masks. They start feeling like identity. That's why people defend them so strongly, because to question the mask feels like questioning who they are. But here's the truth. The more versions someone has, the less you can trust any single one of them. Because consistency is what reveals reality. And most people are not consistent. They change depending on what benefits them, depending on what they need, depending on what they fear losing. And that's where things become dangerous. Because when someone is constantly adjusting, you're not interacting with a stable person. You're interacting with a moving target. And the problem with that is that you start filling in the gaps. Your mind tries to make sense of what it sees. It tries to create a coherent image, something stable, something predictable. But that image is built on fragments, small pieces of behavior taken out of context and assumed to represent the whole. So you trust people based on incomplete information. You believe someone is honest because they were honest once. You believe someone is loyal because they acted loyal in a specific situation. You believe someone is real because they felt real for a moment. But moments are not identity. Situations are not patterns. And that's the mistake most people make. They assume consistency where there is none. And once that assumption is made, everything else follows. You start interpreting their actions in a way that fits your belief. You ignore contradictions. You overlook warning signs. You explain away behavior that doesn't align. Not because you're blind, but because your mind prefers stability over truth. It wants things to make sense, even if that sense is built on illusion. And the longer you hold on to that illusion, the harder it becomes to let it go. Because letting it go means accepting something difficult. That you were wrong. Not just about a situation, but about a person. And that's something most people resist. So instead, they double down. They trust harder. They believe stronger. They convince themselves that everything is fine, even when something feels off. And that feeling, that quiet sense that something isn't right, is usually the only honest signal you get. But it's also the easiest one to ignore, because it doesn't come with proof. It doesn't come with clear evidence. It's just a feeling. And people are taught not to trust feelings. But in situations like this, that feeling is often more accurate than the image you built in your head. Because your mind can be fooled. Your perception can be shaped. Your interpretation can be wrong. But discomfort usually comes from something real. The problem is, you've been trained to suppress it, to explain it away, to ignore it in favor of logic, even when that logic is incomplete. And that's how fake people stay invisible. Not because they are perfect, but because most people are not paying attention in the right way. They are watching behavior, but not questioning intention. They are listening to words, but not noticing patterns. They are seeing what's shown, but not asking what's hidden. And as long as that continues, the illusion stays intact.
And once you truly understand this, you stop seeing people the same way. Not because you become paranoid, but because you become aware. You start noticing the small things, the inconsistencies, the pauses before someone answers, the way their tone changes depending on who is around, the way their behavior shifts when there is something to gain or something to lose. You begin to realize that what people show you is rarely the full picture. And that doesn't mean everyone is bad. It means everyone is filtered. Filtered by fear, filtered by insecurity, filtered by the need to be accepted. And once you see that, you stop expecting complete honesty. You stop expecting people to reveal everything, because most of them can't. Not because they don't want to, but because they don't even know what they're hiding anymore. That's how deep it goes. People don't just hide things from others, they hide things from themselves. They avoid certain thoughts, they ignore certain truths, they reshape their own reality just to feel stable. And when someone is disconnected from their own truth, how can you expect them to show it to you? You can't. So instead of asking, "Is this person real?" you start asking something different. What version of them am I seeing right now? And that question changes everything. Because it removes the illusion of certainty. You stop labeling people too quickly. You stop trusting too easily. You stop assuming you understand someone just because they feel familiar. And that creates distance. Not emotional distance, but mental clarity. You begin to observe more than you react, to notice more than you assume, to question more than you accept. And that's where real awareness begins. Because once you stop reacting to what is shown and start paying attention to what is consistent, you begin to see patterns. Not what people say, but what they repeat. Not what they promise, but what they do over time. And patterns are hard to fake. Anyone can act once. Anyone can pretend for a moment. Anyone can create a convincing version of themselves for a short period. But very few people can maintain that illusion consistently. And that's where truth starts to appear. Not in words, not in expressions, but in repetition. The way someone behaves when they don't need anything. The way they act when there is nothing to gain. The way they respond when they are not being watched. That's where you start seeing who they really are. And once you understand that, you stop trusting what feels right, and you start trusting what stays consistent. Because feelings can be manipulated, perception can be distorted, but patterns reveal structure, and structure reveals truth. So the next time you look at someone, don't just look at what they show you. Look at what stays. Look at what repeats. Look at what doesn't change. Because that's the closest thing you'll ever get to seeing someone as they actually are. And even then, you're still only seeing part of it. Because the truth is, you will never fully see who someone is. And they will never fully see you. There will always be layers, always filters, always something hidden. And maybe that's not a flaw. Maybe that's just how people are. But once you understand it, you stop being blind. You stop confusing comfort with truth. You stop mistaking familiarity for authenticity. And most importantly, you stop trusting what feels real without questioning why it feels that way. Because in a world where everyone is performing, the most dangerous thing you can do is believe everything you see. And the moment you stop doing that is the moment you start seeing differently. Not perfectly, but clearly enough to not be fooled so easily anymore. Because in the end, you don't see people as they are. You see them as they want to be seen.